He is President Obama's half-brother. He's just published a new autobiographical novel, Nairobi to Shenzhen. Mark, you've kept out of the spotlight for so long. Why now?
What happened is that over the past few years, with the extraordinary events, I had come to a sort of a reevaluation of many things in my life, which were very moving, and things which I had shut out of my life for a long time started to come together. You know, I think sometimes I hear your question, and I go back, and I think sometimes I hear as, you know, what prepared you for writing this book, or where does this book come from? And sometimes you ask yourself, why now? And I think life prepares you life prepared me for this book. I've been through so many experiences. I've lived in China, in America. I was raised in Kenya, and coming from a multiracial family, also being exposed to different religions, different people. And I think what happens is when you write a book, certain things you think. I started this book actually 10 years ago, and at that time, there were things that were not true, that did not seem to come together. And then I think what happens in every person's life, there's a point when things come together, and you just know that it's time to finish the book, and it's time to actually have something that you can call your own.
Mark, as your brother related in his memoir, Dreams from My Father, President Obama's life was shaped by his father's absence and impressions he formed of him from others. You have the same father. Barack Obama was asked about this in a Q&A with students in September. Listen.
My name's Brandon. I was wondering, you said that your father wasn't really in your life. That's kind of like me. My parents were divorced.
Right.
But how do you think your life would have been different if he would have been there for you?
He was a very, very smart man. He was sort of arrogant and kind of overbearing, and he had his own problems and his own issues. So my mother always used to say that if he had been around, I probably would have been having a lot of arguments with him all the time.
Since your book obviously deals, while a novel, with things that happen in real life, as you've already explained, first, do you talk to your brother, the president, a lot?
Let me just share with you one thing, and that is getting back to your question, what I just heard. And I think one thing is that I heard the boy ask about my father, and it was interesting. It was good to hear. You know, this is the first time I'd actually heard that particular clip, but it makes me think. It makes me think of the book and the focus. You know, the focus of my thoughts right now have really been around the book, and I just wanted to share really quickly, Larry, with your audience, that the focus of the book is not so much my brother Barack. It's not so much me. The novel is a work of fiction. The three messages that I really wanted to bring out in this book is to raise an awareness of domestic violence. But not just that, also the power and the beauty of a very American dream of being able to start from scratch. You've lost your job, you don't know where you're going, and you can actually start again. And the third one that I really hope this book can actually bring out is the power and the spirit of service, the ability to volunteer and to actually spend 5 minutes, not just talk about it, but actually do something. These are three messages that, regardless of the reflections of my life, or of my brother's life, or my family's life, these are the important things. And that's what I wanted to share. I think one thing is that I'm in contact with with not just my brother, but also my family. But I think these themes are not just about the Obama family. The goal was really to share this. These are themes which run across all countries, across all regions, all religions. And the important thing is that for a long time, I put a lot of things in my mind. I close them out. And this could be, maybe it's a cultural thing, maybe there are other reasons. But I think what happens is that I know that when I was a child, and I'm speaking for myself, and once again, the novel is a work of fiction, is that I encountered things that I did not want anyone else to encounter. And I hope that'll work into a global message. For the audience, the book is a novel, and it's a novel based, which has strong parallels with my life and my experiences.
Hold it right there, Mark. Let me get a break and we'll come right back. We'll talk about domestic violence in your life. First, this.
My father beat me. He beat my mother. You just do not do that. I shut these thoughts in the back of my mind for many years.
Since our program, Mark, you describe, and obviously your brother felt some of it as he discussed his father, what the impact has been on you.
I guess one thing I'd like to share, Larry, is that, just to recap a little bit, my life has always been about self-expression, whether it's through music, calligraphy, writing, and so forth. And as I've been writing all through my life, there are certain things that I never really came to terms with. And we talk about the themes of domestic violence. A lot of times people don't want to talk about some of these things, but at some point in a man's life, there are things that sometimes are extraordinary situations that occur. It could be the death of someone who's close to you. It could be a loss of a job. It could be an extraordinary political movement where people move from fear towards hope, as happened in the last few years, and then you start to reevaluate your life. Now,
and the effect on you was what?
Well, I remember when I was growing up in Kenya that I remember times when I would wake up in the morning, and it would be about 2 or 3 in the morning. And you know, when you're a child, this is one reason I don't very much like to do interviews, by the way, but recently. But one of the things is that when you are a child and you wake up, you're maybe 6 or 7 years old, and you wake up and it's 2 or 3 in the morning, and you hear thuds, and you hear screams, and you hear your mother shouting. This is your mother. This is the person who is the closest person to you in the world. When you hear that, and you see the light, there's like a golden light, the light of the lamp in the living room, and you hear thuds, and I've mentioned this before in the interviews, and you can't protect your mother. This is the sort of thing that you don't. You see, the thing is, when you're a child, I'm not talking about a child who is maybe 12 or 13 years old or a 20-year-old, but when you're a child and you're in an environment which doesn't talk about these things, or maybe in an environment where you are an outsider, because in many cases as a multiracial child, you know, you're black, too black for some people, you're too white for others. And the only person who understands